Where's Hugo? Hugo, we're ready to go. Hugo, you can press record. Just 1 second. They always come through.
All right, we can go ahead and start today's Sustainability and Resiliency Task Force meeting of October 5th at 4:07 p.m. And I'll turn it over to the mayor for a moment of silence and the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and roll call from the mayor.
Member Webb, not here as of yet. He said he would be joining us. Member Fruitstone.
Present.
Vice Chairperson McLean.
Present.
Chairperson Carpenter.
Present.
Chairperson Carpenter, you do have a quorum. Chairperson Carpenter, for the record, you also have Mr. Hugh Gladwin, Mr. Colin Brown, they act as consultants, and you have the liaison, Mayor Nicholson.
Awesome. Thank you. Really nice to see everybody too. It's been a little bit.
Sorry.
All right. Any adjustments to the agenda? No? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
A motion to approve the agenda. Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right. The agenda is approved. I don't think we're still a little behind on minutes, right, Mayor?
Yeah. What happens is that as soon as we're done with the meetings, I start them because everything's fresh in my mind. So it starts to go quick. And then I'll get like a call from a resident. And then after that, I get like another call from like Christia. And then, so I have like 3 minutes that are like halfway done.
No problem at
I'll
all.
make sure I finish.
I call that slipping sideways off the plate. Happens to me all the time.
That's how it goes.
All right, no problem. So I think we've already done acknowledgement of visitors and special presentations. I don't see anybody else except who we're looking at. All right, good and welfare. Anything from Colin and Hugh before we dive in? All right. Moving on to the agenda. I know it's been a while since we've had a regular task force meeting. I was looking back. I think it was June 1st was our last one.
Yeah,
something like that, right? So we've got a lot of things on the agenda, but I'm excited to talk about. So it looks like H1 is just a reminder for us all to be working on finding another task force member, so that if we have somebody's not available, it's a little bit easier for us to get it. Is that right? Does anybody have any suggestions as of now? I know you and I had talked briefly about it, but it didn't work out. Any other suggestions from anyone?
I don't even know if she's still in the village, and I haven't talked to her, but I wanted to, is Barbara still around?
Barbara Fuchsia?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's still around. She's not as active as she used to be.
I just wondered if this might be something that she, might be interested in, given that she's on the river and she's very diligent.
Barbara is my neighbor. If it's the same Barbara, I'm not sure what her last name is. So I'd
is your neighbor.
Okay, I'd be happy to talk to her.
Yeah, she's been involved in
Tree board
things over the years, and she has kind of pulled back. But I think she go ahead, you.
Yeah, it was very traumatic for her when her husband died and everything. So she really pulled back, and I don't know, but maybe she'd be interested in being a little more active on.
She's just
something like this. Yeah,
and she's super diligent and very detail oriented in a way that might be really good for this. And since she's again on the river, and
yeah, the way that we initially met, actually, because we're not direct neighbors, we're a couple houses down, was during the first flooding event that I lived here for. We were all out in the street in our boots trying to get the water. So we always run into each other during floods. So it seems maybe she's meant to be on the task force. Exactly. All right. Well, I'd be happy to reach out to her. My husband and I text her every now and again about neighborhood things. So
I think the effectiveness of this committee would be a good fit for her. I think in the past, she's sometimes been involved in things that have not as been as effective, but I think there's some that she will appreciate the fact that we get through a lot of business on this committee. So.
All right. Sounds great. I'll add that to my list. Anything else?
That's it for me for right now.
H2, Little River Conservancy, Pelican Harbor, Seabird Station, River Cleanup Debrief.
Yes. So we had a lovely outing at the World Rivers Day cleanup that was organized by one of the millennials at the Pelican Harbor Seabird Station. So it was something we brought our table and we had lovely opportunity to talk to everybody, but we didn't wind up having to do any of the heavy lifting ourselves, which was a very nice and pleasant change. It took place on their property. They had probably a similar turnout to what we get at our river cleanups. Manny from iPaddle did the outfitting for them. They put in off it was a much smaller put in because they went in off their natural riverbank. They managed to bring out quite a few. The Frost Science Museum was there. Debris Free Oceans was there. Waterkeepers was there. A couple of food trucks. A yoga group, and a face painting station. So it was really fun.
Mhm.
And
Cool.
I suggested that to Chloe that perhaps Chloe, who's the assistant director, that perhaps we should consider collaborating on our cleanups moving forward, just because they have a very big reach. And with just the three of us, you and Adam and I have been doing this iteration for the last 7 years. That it might be nice to try to many hands type of situation. So we can follow up with Chloe on that. Ideally our cleanup would be coming up in March. That's our preferred time to do it. The one thing I will say about doing it on this particular date was it was really hot out there, like really, really hot. And they didn't start till 9. So they didn't get cleaned. They only cleaned up as far as North Miami Avenue, more or less. But it was fun and successful, I would say. And we talked to a lot of people when we were there.
It was great PR because they also had it through the Dade Heritage Trust.
Speaking actually, maybe this is something else for the agenda, or I should have brought it up in Good and Welfare, but we are doing a paddle with Dade Heritage Trust on the 20th of October. A history paddle leaving from Soares River Park. So.
Sorry, can you repeat that again, Kristen? When
yeah, I have to post it to Nextdoor. Dade Heritage has already posted it. We've sent around one email, but we're going to do another email this week. We are hosting a history paddle for Dade Heritage Trust on October 23rd. I have to double check the time, but we're leaving from Soares River Park. So we're putting it on the west side, and we'll be paddling down to the basin and back with people from Dade Heritage Trust. And partly with a goal of, we'll talk about the history of the river. We'll talk about, we'll have our maps and charts that we always have with us just to orient people as we get on the river. And we'll be talking about the seawall. We'll be talking about the rapids. We'll be talking about some of the issues around sea level rise. But it's really, since it's a history paddle, a lot of what we're going to be doing is sort of conjuring what that river looked like and what we can still see of it today when we're on the water. So.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Of course.
When you get a chance, Kristen, give me a flyer of that, and so we'll send it out, and I'll probably walk it around also, like anything indoors.
People have to have their own watercraft. We're trying to see whether or not Christine Rupp is trying to see whether or not one of her outfitters is available to bring watercraft out. Manny is not available, so it's really for people who have their own water. I mean, we're telling people to bring their watercraft.
That was my second question. My second question was, like, how many people kind of do you want even out there? But you can answer part of that with you have to bring your own watercraft. And part of that second question was also, for the individuals that are going to be, you know, speaking about the history and things like that, do you want me just to e-blast it, or do you want me to try to get as many people as possible? Because I'm picturing that, you know, unless they have a megaphone or something like that, there might be watercrafts toward the back if there's too many people that just might not be able to hear what's going on.
I think this is going to be the best experience if there's less than 15 craft on the water, probably. So I would say we want people to be aware of it who want to come out. It's a little bit of an experiment. If it goes well, we could do more of these. Perfect. So I'd rather, let's see what comes organic. I mean, let's email it. I was going to put it on Nextdoor. Let's see who turns up. And then if there's a lot of people, then we'll do more of these.
All right, thanks, Kristen. I am out of town that day, but I would love to join some in the future if you all decide to do more.
Sure.
All right, anything else on H2? All right, H3, first annual This Is Our Village informational exposition. Mayor Nickerson.
Much, Madam Chair, I appreciate this. I've been passing this around the village. Let me see if I can share my screen real quick. So I decided that I wanted to kind of, and I was talking to Chairperson Carpenter about this, and I appreciate her kind of like guiding me along the way as I was putting this all together. But so I wanted to do something to like celebrate our community, right? Celebrate the village. So I came up with this idea, and it was going to be called originally This Is Our Village Celebration. But then I said, you know what? I said, I want this to be, like it says down here, the first annual, right? So I said, I want this to be something that happens every year. And so then I said, I don't want it to be, even though I want to say celebration, every year it might not be a celebration. And I was thinking that, you know, some years, you know, 8 years from now, 12 years from now, there might be, knock on wood, that it'll never happen, but there might be a bad hurricane or some type of tragedy or something like that. And so I still would want this event to go on. And so I decided to name it This Is Our Village Informational Exposition. And so this is going to be every year kind of like a review and report card and a future look of everything happening in the village. And so it's kind of like, this is our village. It's like, what is our village? It's like all these things are our village. And so on this day, Saturday, October 29th, I have an updated version also. It's going to be at Village Hall. It's going to start at 2:00 p.m. I'm going to do everything that's related to our village. I'm going to recognize the 85th anniversary, which is this year. I'm going to give my State of the Village address. I'm going to do an El Portal Police Department meet and greet. You guys know I cleaned out the police department from all the corruption from the past. So I have a whole new police department, all new vehicles, all new everything, right? Everything's new. So I'm going to do a whole new police department meet and greet with the community. I'm gonna do a law enforcement appreciation day. I'm gonna do a crime watch community program recommencing meeting. Crime watch is gonna be out there to recommence the crime watch program within El Portal. I'm gonna do an El Portal business mixer. I actually have another flyer that's gonna be going out that is gonna be talking about, it's gonna be telling every El Portal resident who's a business owner or entrepreneur, they're gonna all get, so most of El Portal, most of that street's gonna be cut off. It's hard for me to explain it right now. You just have to see it, but it's going to be full of white tents and tables, kind of like Kristen, how you guys do it, and Hugh at the Little River Conservancy for the river cleanup. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be sending out an email to you guys a little bit later and get your contact for who you guys use. But it's going to be all white tents and tables. So everybody who's an El Portal resident, who's a business owner, entrepreneur, they're going to be able to set up their, you know, their company's pamphlets and things like that. And I'm going to also take out time to where I'm going to be introducing every single business owner or entrepreneur in El Portal to the community that day who's there. All right. Citizen of the Year Awards that day, Home of the Year Awards that day. I'm going to honor our El Portal residents who are military veterans and those who are currently in the armed forces. I'm going to recognize our first responders who are El Portal residents. You're going to learn about our El Portal organizations. Yes, I'm going to be introducing and talking about Little River Conservancy, the SNR, Sustainability and Resiliency Task Force, the Women's Club.
All right, sorry, Omar, tell me again, when is this so that I can make sure that it's on my calendar?
Yes, this is the last Saturday of October. And it's
Okay.
going to always be the last Saturday of October from here going forward, because if there's ever any elections, that's in November. And so this is the last thing of whoever administration is there is going to be the final event of the year or El Portal. And that's why it's going to be that event to where we talk about everything, and we do everything on that event. It's always going to be from now on the last Saturday of October. All right. And so, so for example, if we ever have, like, let's say, you know, when I have my last term as mayor, that last Saturday of October, before that election comes, the elections are always the first week, usually the first Tuesday of November. I can have my going away address, you know, whoever. So it's always going to be that last Saturday right before whatever elections are coming or happening.
I think this is a super smart idea, Omar. I really like it. Get it all like concentrated. I think it's great.
It's all day. It's Saturday, starts at 2 p.m. We're going to end around like 7 p.m. It's going to be music. I have 2 bounce houses coming, one for big kids, one for little kids. It's going to be all types. So I'm even, I'm like 75% of the way of getting a stage from the county. And if I get that, I'm going to put out a flyer saying, if you're an El Portal resident who's a singer or has a band, you're going to perform, you can perform on that day. So I'm almost there. I just haven't added that yet because I haven't gotten that all together yet. You know, I haven't gotten the reservation from the county yet. But, you know, Marilyn Mean Cava tries to look out for me, so I have faith. Learn about El Portal organizations, and then engage your government officials, employees, and contractors. Again, for years, to where there's going to be an election that next week, that first week of November, that Tuesday of November, you can, you know, in years in the future, your government officials can be there. You can have one last conversation with all your government officials who are running for certain seats and things like that. They'll all be there. This one right here, I'm going to introduce all the employees. A lot of people don't know exactly the individuals that work for El Portal right now, the contractors. What does Preservia do? Who are Juan and Camilla? You know what I mean? What is CAP government? Who does our front desk? Remember, our front desk now is professionally contracted, right? It used to be just like individuals that we would hire, but I changed all that. Our public works people are now professionally contracted, okay? So who are these people? All those individuals, all the organizations, everybody's going to be introduced that day, be able to say, you know, say a little bit about themselves and things like that. So it's going to be the first annual one. I actually added one more thing also, because this was the first, you see it says TBD. It was the first, it was to be determined, it was the first flyer. And thanks to Manager Lou and Vice Mayor Urban put his image on there, because Vice Mayor Urban was the first one to show me support when I kind of came out with this idea. You know, the rest of the council was like, you know, they kind of wanted to do, I want to do my own thing. Why do you have to make up something like this? Jesus Christ. I'm just trying to do this for the betterment of the community. And Vice Mayor Urban was first one to say, you know what, Mayor, like, this is a great idea, and I appreciate this, and whatever you need, I support you 100%. I said, you know what, your face is going on this flyer, my brother, because I appreciate the support. So thanks to Vice Mayor Urban, Manager Lou. And this would be the newer one right here, which I haven't put out yet. If you notice, like, I'm gonna put out like 3 of them. I'm gonna hit every door with like 3 different flyers and 3 different colors, because I told when I was doing the flyers, I was like, okay, the first one is blue and green, right? El Portal, blue and green. But I said, when I passed the second round of flyers around to, you know, remind people of this event, I said, I don't want them to look at the flyer and be like, oh, I saw this before and just throw it aside. I said, how can I do that? I said, well, let me change the colors. So if I change the colors, they might say, hey, I haven't seen this one before. It looks kind of new. What is this? So they'll take another look at it. So the next one, which is the updated flyer, is going to be orange and blue. And so I added at the very bottom right here, acknowledgement of our El Portal junior and future stars. So individuals like Ty.
You hear that, Ty?
Individuals like Ty, who are our future stars, who are El Portal residents, are going to get awarded that day and recognized.
You get awarded that day.
All
you
right?
know what, Omar, though?
I know you're going to be, I know you're not here. I know, Madam President, I know you're not going to be here, but I'm going to save her award. I'll bring it to the house personally. So I did add
she
that.
Says thank you. She's here. She hears you. She says thank you. She's very honored.
Well, thank you, Ty. I appreciate you, sister. So it's going to be that going forward, you guys. But thank you, Madam Chair. That's going to be the event going forward.
This is awesome, Mayor. Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to that as well.
We're excited. We can't wait to have our table.
All right, moving on to H4, the annual Southeast Florida Regional Leadership Summit.
Okay, let me bring this up really quickly. And this was from, and Chairperson Carpenter, Madam Chair, I sent this out to you guys, and Madam Chair, I believe, is already going.
Yes.
Because I know she responded and said, I'll be there. There is an event. It's the Southeast Florida Regional Climate Leadership Summit. So I can make this bigger. I want to share my screen, but it's so small right now. I want to make it bigger first. Settings. All right. All right, share this. Okay, big enough. All right, you guys. So this is the 14th annual Southeast Florida Regional Climate Leadership Summit, and Ms. Castillo reached out to me and said, Mayor, can you kind of like share this because it's very important. So December 8th and 9th at the Broward County Convention Center. And Madam Chair, you want to speak more about it? You probably know more about it than I do.
Sure. So this is hosted by the Southeast Florida Regional Climate Compact, which is a compact of the, I believe, 4 counties in Southeast Florida. So Monroe, Miami-Dade, Broward, and I think Palm Beach. And they have been having, it's been, I guess, 14 years now since they collaborate, since they've come together to form this compact. And one of their primary things that they do is create sea level rise projections for the region and look for collaborative, adaptive solutions as a region to those issues. And they have this annual leadership summit where some of that information is presented. They've been virtual for the last 2 years, so I've attended the virtual ones. But the only in-person one I attended was when I was in law school. So I'm not sure exactly what they look like, but I know that we at Everglades Law Center use the data that comes out of this compact pretty frequently. I don't know if Hugh, you wanted to add anything.
Yeah, it's I mean, the compact itself is like, to me, a totally amazing thing that it even exists. But, you know, I mean, it's been ages since I've been to one, but, you know, there's tons of stuff going on. It's like a big sort of convention thing. I don't know, you know, if you're, if you haven't been to it, it's really, I think, worth going just to get a real sense of what's happening and who's doing what, and, you know, just wander around and look at stuff and so on.
I emailed this.
Exactly.
Sorry about that, Madam Chair. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say their primary focus is on climate change and regional strategies and putting together projections. But I know some of the previous ones I've attended, they had, some folks from Germany and the Netherlands come over and join a working group where they were proposing, applying the strategies used for sea level rise in the Netherlands to Miami and coming up with, project outlines and things like that. So they reach worldwide to bring people together for this. It's a great conference.
Yeah, I emailed this to you guys. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Gladwin. I emailed this to you guys on September 21st. I'll email it again. There's an early bird registration for 150 that ends October 9th. And after that, it's 180 if anybody wants to go. I'll email it to you guys after the meeting. Done with this, Madam Chair.
All right. I'm going to be going for Everglades Law Center work anyway, so I'm happy to report back and represent the task force for those 2 days as well. All right, moving on. H5 septic to sewer financial update. Mayor Nickerson.
All right, so we're all here, and this is we're all a tight family here. And even though this is a public meeting, we're gonna keep this on the down low for now. All right, so but the reason why I am bringing it up to you all, and I spoke to Madam Chair about this recently, but I'm bringing this up to you all because yesterday myself and Manager Lou just signed the contract. So the contract, it hasn't been executed yet, but we just signed the contract. So I said, okay, let me bring it out a little bit, a little bit more. Manager Lou and myself, we're always kind of like careful about announcing stuff. I spoke to Chairperson Carpenter about this in the past, because until the contract is executed, we don't want to start saying and bragging about things, not necessarily bragging, but informing people, and then just ends up not happening or something like that. So, and we know how it is, when it comes to funding and things like that, it's always a iffy situation. And so since we're so used to funding and things like that, we're always so careful about when to announce things. But I said, you know what, this is my family right here, the task force. I'm just gonna come out with it. So on September 11th, 9/11, and we had that tragedy that will always live with us. I went to an event, and after that event was over around like 9:30 at night, it was like 9:30, 9:45 at night. When I got back home, I got a phone call, and it was Mayor Levine Cava. And Mayor Levine Cava said, she said, hey, Mr. Mayor, I said, how you doing? She said, I appreciate you, showing up at the event. One of the commissioners said you went to one of the 9/11 commemoration events. I said, yeah, I said, it was good. I appreciate the invite and things like that. And she said, you've been doing a lot of work, Mayor. She said, and, I can't congratulate you enough for being Mayor of the Year. I said, well, I appreciate that, Madam Mayor. Everything's cool. So this is a Sunday night, right around 9:45 p.m. So she was like, so with all the work that you've been doing, she said, I have good news. I said, what's going on? She said, well, you've been talking a lot about, what you guys have been doing, and you and Manager Lou, and what you guys need for El Portal and things like that. She said, so tomorrow morning, you're going to get an email. And Madam Mayor, I appreciate that. I'm always, always looking to get emails. That's a good thing. And so then the next morning, I got this email, which is not necessarily public record yet, but I'll share a little something for the task force. Bring this up real quick. So the next morning, I got this email. And this is what she told me. She was like, Mayor, we're going to give you this. And she told me this on a Sunday night. And then I called Christia, and then Christia and I were on the phone with her. And I'm not saying the amount yet because I want to show you. And so we're getting $6 million for us.
Oh my God.
Holy cow.
Yep. Just like
that. Oh my gosh.
Just like that.
Wow.
Just like that.
That's
just
amazing.
Like that. Wow.
So she called me September 11th, and this has to be September 12th. Yep. September 12th is when, the next day, like she said, she was like, you're going to expect the email tomorrow. And I was like, okay.
Hercules.
Right. So
is this, so Omar, talk to me a little bit about this. Is this a match to funds that we already have?
No, this is fully funded by the county.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Funded. We don't have to put in no money, not a penny.
So but didn't weren't we already working on other funds? Like, does this expand our ability to do
it expands. Yeah, because we're already working on, those other things are still in play. They're not going away, because a lot of those things don't even come from the county. I mean, I signed a 10-year MOU with the county, which is if nothing is done for septic sewer within 10 years, they're going to do the whole village. So the 10-year plan is the worst case scenario that I signed when, and that's through Mayor Levine Cava also, when we first kind of started to become close. She put that in play, her and Keon Hardeman. But so we have that, but we also have other asks out, and this doesn't affect those asks either. So what's interesting is that, and I was speaking to Chairperson Carpenter about this. It was interesting is that, years ago when we first did our wastewater master plan, it was only $5 million for all of El Portal to be completely septic to sewer. And so we were talking about this, Madam Chair, and I haven't spoken to you about this part yet. So right after this happened, Christia and I, what we did was we went and we had our engineers just do like a brief update overview of wastewater, with taking into play inflation, the current inflation, and with taking into play supplies. Because remember, you guys, after COVID, remember all the supplies went sky high, right? Construction supplies and things like that went sky high. So we have that all that put into play. So right now, so if this was to break ground right now with the inflation and with the construction costs and how it's going up, it would cost for the entire village now $24 million for the entire.
Ugh, yeah.
With the difference.
Oh, that's such a big change.
Isn't that such a big change?
Oh.
I was like, that's crazy. So I was like, oh man. So myself and Manager Lou were like, we appreciate it, but can y'all look at the inflated costs and not look at our original wastewater master plan that you guys are basing what you're giving us on now? Jesus
when was the original wastewater master plan put together?
When was it done?
Yeah, that's the like 2000.
Yeah, it was like 2003 or something.
Okay.
I believe it's either 2003 or 2013. I know I have a 3 in my mind.
Yeah, I know.
I believe it was 2003. Someone's telling me it was 2003.
Okay.
So, but we'll see. Look, you guys, it's not over until it's over. And Manager Lou and I, we always, whenever we get a no, we go right around the no. We swerve around the no, and we come back for something else. So
this is, I mean, that's a disappointing increase from inflation, but this is still amazing. $6 million is significant and will make a huge dent on our septic issues and water quality, corresponding water quality issues. I mean, we already talked about this, but this is awesome news.
Absolutely, absolutely, and just know that also, and this is something that is not set in stone. Probably shouldn't even put it out there yet, but Manager Lou and I are probably, I would say, in realistic terms, I'd say we're about 55 to 58% of the way of getting full county funding for all the connections for all the households in El Portal, so they wouldn't have to pay for connections. So we're working on that also simultaneously. So just know that's in the works also. That's
fantastic. It's great news, and I really loved seeing in that email how they said that the Little River Adaptation Action Area is their #1 priority for funds from the state that continue to come in. So that's great to see as well.
Well, remember, Madam Chair, last time, we had a SNR meeting. We were talking about how when I started to go to those events, I was starting to become abrasive. But also, just to let everybody know, everybody here who's going to watch this and everybody here as part of the task force and our consultants, right before I received this funding, Chairperson Carpenter was actually at an event where she was also talking about what was going on in El Portal, what we needed, and the importance of it. And I think that all the stars aligned at the same time, where me yelling my big mouth off when I get invited to these events as Mayor of the Year, and Chairperson Carpenter at this event where individuals were there that are directly connected to the mayor, speaking her mind, and it's like within like 24 to 40 hours later, I get the phone call, then the email comes. And so I think this is a group, a group function, you guys, that we're all just kind of working toward the same thing. I think they heard it enough from all of us. They're like, oh, let's just give those El Portal people the money.
They're like, enough, I don't want to hear it anymore.
But I appreciate all of you guys.
It's amazing, guys. Super huge win. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Mayor. I'm very excited about that, and definitely a testament to your leadership and your ranking as Mayor of the Year. This is why.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much.
Okay. Anything else on septic to sewer? Okay, so actually, quick question on that, Mayor. Just I had on my list, for today's meeting, just an update on septic to sewer. I know that do you have any additional updates on what's happening on the west side of the village with the septic sewer conversion happening now?
Yeah, so the west side, the groundbreaking should happen soon. But now that this is coming, this is going to, the west side is going to get done regardless. That's where we're starting. It's going to get done regardless because the funding is already there previously. But this is just adding to it. Like I was telling, Madam Vice Chair earlier, it doesn't take away from any of the stuff that we already have planned. It's just adding to it, which is good because that means that $6 million won't necessarily have to go for the west side. won't have to go for Northeast Second. I don't know if I spoke about that or not. I'm not gonna get too deep into that, but Northeast Second, we have a plan for that, and it's already going in play. And so that's going to be done. And so it doesn't really affect that either. And so, hopefully the 6 million will be enough to go a long way toward that 24 million of the inflated costs and the.
Awesome. Do we have a prioritization of areas that it'll be applied to, or is that like something that's going to happen moving forward?
No, we do. So the reason why we were starting on the west side was because the original funding that I received was for it was received previously and then it was taken away in the last administration, and we got it back. The original funding is because the homes that are over there west of Horace Mann, those homes, the property values were much lower than as you go east. So the reason why we got that original funding was because of the home values being low, and it was like we got that funding through a different type of funding grant for that reason, for that particular purpose, because of the home values being so low. And we made the argument that they would not ever be able to do anything on their own, and there was hardships and things like that because of the home values being lower west of Horace Mann than as you go east of Horace Mann to Northeast Second, and then from Northeast Second to the village is the highest home values east of Northeast Second. So that's the reason why we're starting west. After that, the next area is the houses along the canal and then Sherwood Forest.
Okay, so it would be starting on the west, move west to east along the river, along 86.
Yes.
87.
Yes. Now that's the environmental aspect of priority, right? So myself and Manager Lou, we also have a financial aspect of priority because we never knew which funding would come through first. So we always would ask for both sides. The financial aspect is Northeast Second would be the next place after the west side, because Northeast Second is a business corridor. So that's how that works.
Okay, so it's probably a little too soon to say how many houses or how far the $6 million would get us at this point, right? I'm excited.
Yeah, I don't have that much information yet, but trust me, Madam Chair, as soon as we find out, I'll bring it straight to the task force. Madam Chair, you should also know that, and Manager Lou, I know they didn't tell you this, I don't know if she told you this yet or not, but we did find the funding, we found the funding for another storm drain in Sherwood Forest by the park.
Awesome.
So it should be, so we found the funding, we believe. All
right. Wonderful. This is all awesome news.
Appreciate you.
All right. Moving on to H6 hurricane tropical storm passive season preparation. If you guys don't mind me just taking a minute of everybody's time. So I was unfortunately out of town my husband and I both, the entire week that Ian came through, and we set up cameras and pumps and tried to get the house as ready as we could. But I was just wanted some anecdotal, overview from how you all saw everything going in the village. I know we talked briefly about this before the meeting started.
I think Mr. Gladwin would be the best for the details, the technical details of what happened in the village. From a standpoint of preparation, I did everything that I could. Let me tell you a good thing about it is, and this is why I put this on the agenda. And after this, Madam Chair, I'll let Hugh Gladwin chime in and give the details about everything. But it was so good that I reached out to Manager Lou months ago, and we got that sand in because, and we got it in months ago because, when these events start to happen and everybody starts to run to the stores and everybody starts to do things like that, and everybody starts to go get the sand, and you see the sand all over the news where they have it at certain centers. During those periods of time, El Portal would not get any sand. We're the smallest municipality. We're the last one they'll think of. There's no reason for us to just bring sand straight to you. So it was so good that we got that months ago, because this time, as soon as residents said, Mayor, I need some sandbags, I was able to get it to them that day or the next morning. Because I just went out there myself and just packed the sandbags and took it over there right to them. So that's part of the reason why I put this on there, because when hurricane season is over, which is going to end pretty soon, even though there's some, storms still swirling out there. I know Mr. Gladwin's going to probably touch on that. Once hurricane season is over, I want to still push forward to prepare the village, even in the passive season. I want to get everybody their sandbags now. I still have a mound of sand there. I still have more sand coming in. I want to get everything done now that can possibly be done in the passive season, so that when the time comes and things get really dicey and people are running around and stressed out, I want El Portal residents to not be stressed by as many things possible as I could possibly make. So I put that there. So going forward, you guys, if you can think of anything else passively that I can do, or not passive, but anything else you think of that I can do during the passive hurricane season, let me know, because there might be things I'm not thinking about right now. I'm gonna tell El Portal residents, get your sandbags now, bring them over. I'm gonna tell El Portal residents, look, for your canned goods, if you have a place to store canned goods, get your canned goods now. If we don't have a hurricane for a year or so, whatever you have there, start to eat it little by little and then go to Publix and replace what's there. But get it now, because I just don't want El Portal residents to be running around and stressed out when the time comes, when these storms happen, because there's so much stress and anxiety that it brings, that I want us to be as least stressed as possible. And that's why I put that there, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Mayor. I know that is, everybody really appreciates that. And it's a great point as we hopefully move out of the hurricane season without any big hits and into the winter. Kristen,
Can I make just a couple quick comments? The first is that, Omar, if you're going to give people sandbags in the off season, you have to tell them not to store them in the sun, because they will break down. They have to be stored someplace like not out of the weather and out of the outside, which for some people may be an issue. But if they store them outside or exposed to weather, they'll be that plastic will break down and they will be not useful next year. And the other thing that I think we should explore is, and maybe we can work with Ace Hardware on this, is doing some kind of bulk discounted order for quick dams for people. So people could order them and we could put in a bulk order for quick dams.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody here uses quick dams, but they are the best. And they are shelf stable. You just put them on your hurricane shelf until you actually need them. So, and they make, they're reusable, kind of. I have some in my backyard right now that
it says leave it out to dry for 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, you have to leave it out for the entire winter in order to be able to use them. And then when you pick them up, they're all kind of clotted, but it doesn't matter. But
we used it twice and it worked.
They're very, very good. And they're a little more expensive. So not everyone will, but if we could get a bulk order where we could get a discounted rate, I'm pretty sure Ace would work with us on this. But the garage ones are the ones that I think are super useful. So they come in a single and a double car garage size, 4 inches by the width of the garage. So, I mean, I think that's something that we could offer people, like, and put a order date on it and then just get a bulk order, then distribute it.
Thank you. I'm going to move on that 100%. I'm going to tell Manager Lou about that tomorrow morning, and we'll move directly on that. Ace Hardware, does Home Depot have them?
Yes, you can order through Home Depot also. Yeah. I just don't know. I don't know if they'll do you have a relationship with them where they'll do a bulk order for you guys?
I'm not sure, but I know that Home Depot is providing me some like gift cards and things like that for the Home of the Year award that I'm doing.
Okay.
They're providing some stuff for me for that. So maybe, it's the beginning of a relationship.
So I just also want to piggyback on, is there funding and the availability for our emergency texting?
The emergency texting is already done. I already sent the contract in. I'm just waiting on them to send me back the executed contract.
Because that would be perfect for October 29th to get residents to sign up for it.
No, 100%. That's already been, I'm just waiting on them to send me back the executed contract. And once they send me back the executed contract with the number, I can send it out to the residents. I think that part of the problem is that, and I spoke to President Cruzon about this recently. I think the part of the problem is that the point people that I was speaking to was 2 individuals. One really, and I think that they've either left the company or stepped down or something. And so I have to have a new point person, but now I'm just emailing, the company itself and just saying like, just please send me back the executed contract. It's already been paid for and everything. They just need to send me back the executed contract. And that, all that funding was not taxpayer dollars. I had the funding for all that type of stuff. It was part of a technology fund that I got. So
Yeah, no, I remember. I'm just thinking for the 29th, that's like the perfect time.
Was
You
it
know, with the sign, like sign up for emergency, El Portal texts.
yeah, 100%. We've had, to your point, President Fruitstone, Member Fruitstone, we've had a couple of occasions where it's been the perfect time we could have used it.
Yeah.
And I'm expressing that to them also, Madam Chair. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask whether the company or contract we entered into is just for the emergency texting, or that larger system where we were like could text informational things and like.
It's the largest system. It was the full system. Yep.
Okay, but not the one attached to an app.
No, this was the one. Say the name right now. It starts with an N. It's the one that it was the most comprehensive one. It was the one that had the most things included. It was the one that more governments use. I believe Miami Shores uses it also. And I think City of Miami uses it also. Give the name right.
Is it like based on how many texts a month we can send?
It's unlimited.
Okay. Because that's awesome. Because obviously, it's very helpful for the emergency relief things. But also just informationally, I think it would be useful. I know we talked a lot about, if they're like, advertising this at the event on the 29th, but also we could use it to advertise the event.
Absolutely. No, 100%. It was Nixle. Nixle's the one. And Nixle's used by other governments all throughout the United States. Unlimited emails, unlimited web messages, unlimited Facebook and Twitter notifications, unlimited SMS, voice notifications, emergency alerts, immediately notify residents during emergency incidents, including severe weather, natural disaster, active shooters, ongoing chases, terrorist acts, community engagement, inform and seek assistance from the public about relevant community incidents regarding council meetings, finding missing persons, send severe traffic or road closure alerts, provide public safety information and events, fairs, parades, things like what we're talking about right now, sharing criminal activity and suspicious activity. These are all built-in. These are all built.
Gotcha.
These are all built-in.
That's great. Do we need to come up with, or maybe not us, but the village council come up with some kind of limitation on what is it like, who's in charge of who sends things out and how many a month and all like that kind of stuff?
We already myself and Manager Lou already has to have that figured out. Either myself or the clerk. It's going to end up being me sending everything out. And everything has to come through myself and Manager Lou before it goes out. So
okay, I was thinking of, I would want to be conscious of not overusing it from a task force perspective, but there's definitely a lot of things that I think the task force would value, would benefit from that. For example, like the fertilizer ban, like you sent out those great flyers, which are super helpful. But we could also, at the period where there's a full ban in the year, at the beginning of it, you could say the ban starts today, and then at the end, maybe not tell them it's over, but, I have to tell them the range at the beginning, things like that.
Absolutely.
Or like maybe even like a monthly, I've been thinking a lot about the education component of our task force work that we've talked about, if it was within reasonable limits, maybe like a monthly task force, like fun fact or something like that. And I had this as new business, but I went for a walk this morning. Everyone's recycling was hadn't been picked up yet. And the majority of recycling bins were full of recycling, which was great, but they were all in trash bags. And you can't put recycling in trash bags or it ruins the entire load.
Yeah, they won't take it.
They won't take it. Exactly. And I was just so sad. I'm like, this is all just garbage. Someone spent the time separating the recyclables and then it's all ruined because it's in a trash bag. And I'm like, how could we tell everybody? Because I'm sure all those people who spent that time putting their recycling aside, if they knew that was ruining it, they wouldn't do it. It's not hard to convince people who are already recycling to do it better. So stuff like that. But I would want I would want to make sure, the reason I asked is I would want to make sure not to abuse that or know what our parameters based on what the village council or yourself allowed the task force to recommend.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Everything's gonna come between, you know, through myself and manager Lou, and just like with our Instagram and things like that, like I'm the one that pretty much does it all. So, you know, Clerk Jacoby will join and put things out, you know, when she gets a chance, and I appreciate her putting out the from the desk of the mayor email blast she does. But yeah, it's gonna come before me, myself and manager Lou anyway.
Awesome.
You guys are in good hands. Whatever you want to put out. I also put out recently, I know we have to get to Mr. Brown's, you know, full presentation. Remember last time Mr. Brown did it, we had him do a quick presentation of the amounts. Today's gonna be a full presentation because last time I think he had like 3 minutes to present. So now you're gonna have much more time, Mr. Brown. But in the past though, you guys, I have put out, and I know, you know, people look at it, people forget, which is why this text notification service is going to be so good. But you know, in the past, I have put out the flyers about the about what's allowed and what's not allowed in the recycling. I remember one time I put out a group of flyers, and it was the bulk pickup and trash schedule, and then there was the bulk pickup and trash schedule, and then there was the recycling. There was what should not be recycled, and it was flyers I've done. It was the schedule, it was the recycling, and it was what shouldn't be recycled. I remember I put, you guys remember getting this in on your door with the bulk pickup schedule. It was the and then this was in it also. What materials to recycle. This was another flyer that was in that flyer mailer that I did, or whatever. And it was with the freebie and all that type of stuff was in there. But I did that like, you know, 6-7 months ago. So maybe it's time for me to do it again. And you know what? I'll pass all these out again in another door-to-door flyer door hanger that I will do, because December bulk pickup is going to come up sooner or later. And so I think we get a little bit closer. Maybe I'll just put it out so people know, you know, that when December bulk pickup is, and they'll again see this. Maybe I'll put this in the front, Madam Chair. So this will be the first thing they see.
Great. Does it say don't put your recyclables in plastic bags?
I'm not sure. Does it have that or no?
I don't remember.
Let's see.
It might not, because I thought I read it really carefully, and I was surprised when you said that. I mean, I hadn't thought of it. I don't do it.
Glass, food, beverages,
we need to check it.
Newspapers, catalogs, magazines. Maybe I need to get a new one. All right, you know what?
I think it might be worth it, because the first trash recycling bin I walked by, I was like, man, they put their trash in there. Like, how dare they? And then I was like, oh, it's all recycling.
You know what I'll do? I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna do, Madam Chair. I'll do a whole separate flyer that just says, do not put recyclables in plastic bags. So it'll stand out. I'll do a whole separate flyer for that. That's what I'll do.
That sounds awesome.
I'll do a whole separate flyer with like a cartoon person about to put a plastic bag in, like a no sign or something like that. That's what I'll do. Don't worry about it. I'll make it look good.
Maybe point out that it ruins the whole batch, you know, or the whole can or something.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. All right. Anything else on hurricane prep?
I don't know, Madam Chair. Mr. Glavin wanted to quickly say something. I know we want to get Mr. Brown in before we wrap up and give him enough time. But Hugh, if there's anything you want to say, Madam Chair, maybe it's up to you and the task force if he wants to chime in about the hurricane season as a whole and this particular storm, Ida.
No, all I want to say now is I just was very happy to hear what you said about the sandbags, because, you know, I was kind of trying to pass on the messages and keep everybody aware of the timing and what was coming. So, and occasionally yelling about sandbags. So I'm glad to hear that you were doing it on the other end. So we can do later when the season is really over, sort of like the money you get, you wait till the absolute thing is signed. You don't want to say anything about hurricane seasons anymore till they're over. So that's all for now, for sure.
All right. Well, thank you, Hugh, and thank you for your updates and the pre-warnings you provide on those. That's really helpful. All right. Perfect. Moving on to H7, the Indian Mound presentation. I'll turn it over to Colin.
All right. Pull this up.
While we're moving on to Mr. Brown, let me just say really quickly, I just got a text from Mr. Webb. He says, sorry, got my time zones mixed up. I'm joining right now. So Mr. Webb will be here in a second.
Great.
Mr. Brown, I know you're going to get into this, but let me give you good news before you even start. Because of your last very quick 3-minute presentation, you mentioned that, and you mentioned when you sent this to me, you mentioned that the mound used to be higher. So guess what? We had an archaeologist come out there since our last meeting, myself and manager Lou. They looked at the mound. They actually came to the conclusion that some of the plants that are currently on the mound were not supposed to be there, were planted, later on. They're going to be removed by the archaeologists.
Right.
And they're going to fill up the mound to the height that it's supposed to be at. And it's going to become part of a registered National Historical Site. So that's all happened since the last meeting, and I was inspired by your
presentation fun.
3-minute presentation.
Right.
All right, here we go.
So then what's the timeline on that, Mayor?
For the mound to be to be filled in again, it's going to be part of the parks renovation. So over the next year, it's going to be part of that whole 5 parks renovation thing that I'm doing. As you guys know, bathrooms are going into the tot lot. Got that funding that's come through, right? So it's going to be part of that whole thing, and things like that. So over the next year, Mr. Brown.
Okay. So I guess just to start out, I am curious about the time. I know that you just said the over the next year, Mayor, that it will start, but I am curious to know like a little bit more about the timing of that. Are we talking like 2 months, 4 months, 6 months?
To get the project started?
Yeah.
To get the project started, you're probably talking about 6 months.
Okay.
Remember, you all, I'm still taking, and you guys are still free to email me, I'm still taking suggestions, environmental suggestions of what you guys might want us to implement in the parks. All right, so we're still in the design phase, which is why after the last meeting where you did your presentation, I was able to go back and make that adjustment to the mound because we're still in that design phase. So just gotta keep that in mind. All right.
So with all that being said, thank you for those updates. Thank you for all your work on this. I put together this little presentation back in July, and we skimmed through it. I don't have any developments on the presentation, but I can skim through it again real quickly, just because I don't think we need to spend 15 minutes, going through this presentation. It's pretty brief. It's pretty straightforward. Before I go through it, I just wanted to say that I think it's really important that, any design presentation or any design study involves the study of existing conditions that, tie back to historic conditions. So it's really about trying to set a framework for where we're going. And with this presentation that I put together in July, what I was trying to do is use my experience as a landscape architect to try to create a larger initiative or a long-term mission for the mound beyond the plans that had been shared with us, the construction documents that have been shared with us to date, which I also want to be very forward in saying that I think it's all great progress. And to receive any construction documents or any design related items for the mound is progress towards the restoration effort that's now being scheduled, and other items. So with all that being said, I do have a couple other notes that I want to talk about as it relates to the mound and the future of the mound. So I will share my screen. and we'll cruise through this real quick. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, great. So the first part of this presentation is existing conditions and site analysis. And then the second part is just outlining some design objectives. And then the third is immediate action items. Again, this is the effort to get a conversation started about the long-term planning for the mound. So here's a couple photos of what the mound looks like. Everybody knows what it looks like, but it's helpful to have these in here for discussion purposes. You can see actually at some parts here. Can everybody see my cursor on the screen?
Yep.
We can.
Okay, you can see that there's there's less grass growing here, and the slope is actually steeper. So there's an erosion problem here. There's also a continual problem of contractors and people parking on the mound, specifically at this location. This is a beautiful low branch that has been hit a few times over the past few months. And I'm worried that eventually somebody's going to be cruising through here at 20 miles an hour with the music blaring in a FedEx truck or something and actually compromise this entire tree. So this branch is something that I'll talk about a little bit later as well. Here's a view from the north side of the mound where you can actually see that the slope isn't as steep. It gets more sunlight, so there isn't an erosion problem and the grass grows better on this side. Here you can see on the west side of the mound this continued erosion problem where the water shoots around the edge here and people drive on the edge of the mound. So this is a study of existing canopy that shows where the different live oaks are on the mound, which ultimately impacts the existing conditions, which will impact what types of plants we plant where. You can't plant a palm or a tree or a shrub that is shade tolerant or that loves shade in a sunny area, and vice versa. You can't plant, full sun plants in the shade. So really, this is an initial study that begins to inform the plant matrix and any sort of planting design that could be proposed down the line. Here's an actual sun shade study of the areas here in darker purple are areas of heavy shade, which correspond with less grass, which corresponds with erosion problems. And you can actually see how the shade pattern starts to shift based off of canopy locations throughout the day. So it's really this southern slope that is in shade all day, every day, and has the erosion problem. Talking a little bit more about the erosion problem, you can see that the mound, the topography is spaced out more on the north side of the mound than on the south side of the mound. And you can start to see when it rains really hard, this is actually where the water rushes down off the mound, rushes down the street, carves out a little gully here, heads down to Sherwood Forest Park. And the amount of water that goes on to my property is incredible. During a heavy rain event, the sheet flow that runs down my driveway and down to Little River is notable. So this is the important part of the presentation is, what are design objectives that we could look at for the mound? Right now there is the educational element is limited. So how can we educate the public on Tequesta Native American history? Number two is how can we provide protection from vehicular traffic and parking? A lot of people, once they realize that they parked on a sacred burial mound, feel really, really bad about parking on it. So it's a design issue and an education issue that, you know, needs to be resolved. How do we keep vehicles off, and how do we make it so cars cannot pull up on the mound? You know, landscape lighting is something to consider. You know, landscape lighting that's emblematic of a residential neighborhood. This is soft lighting that could light up the canopy of the oaks and, you know, give it prominence when people drive through at night and allow people to recognize that this is a sacred spot. There are lights that are positioned on the east and west ends of the mound. And actually, Hugh, you may have a couple comments on this, but these lights were installed because people would come and dig in the mound in the 50s and 60s to try to find artifacts and treasure. I think that's less of an issue today. And, you know, maybe the lighting initiative gets away from lights off of telephone poles and, you know, other large wooden poles, and maybe it's actually incorporated into the lighting of the mound itself and of the live oaks themselves. Number 5, provide long-term maintenance plans for the live oaks. I've been told by numerous people that some of these live oaks are several hundred years old, which means that these are pre-colonial, that, you know, Native Americans actually sat and prayed and performed ceremonies under these live oaks. So how do we ensure their long-term survival and protection? And then how do we, number 6, you know, how does any future design, proposed design, how can we get it to align with El Portal's environmental agenda and stormwater management policies? So there is sheet flow coming off of higher elevation areas to lower elevations, which does add to the flooding problem. You know, this might not be on a huge scale, but maybe there's an opportunity to educate the public about what's happening in heavy rain events, where we can foster native plant communities and enhance biodiversity around the mound with rainwater. And then this was my last note. Yeah, restore the mound to its proper elevation prior to disturbance. I think it's 3 to 4 feet was the estimated height, Mayor. Is that what you heard on your end? So if you walk by the mound and you can picture 3 to 4 feet on top of it, it is going to be a prominent feature. So, you know, with the additional soil on top of the mound, the additional sand on top of the mound, you know, how do we combat erosion? Do we consider using native plants to combat erosion? Is there some sort of, you know, I did like that there were bollards in the last plan that protected the mound from parking, Mayor. But my only comment is it would be nice to make the barrier out of a native stone or something that is a little softer, and it feels less like, you know, you're entering an arena for a sporting event, and, you know, you have native oolite stone that creates a small retention system to hold the soil in place that the plants can grow off of, and also keeps vehicles off the mound. So that's just a thought that I'd be curious to hear your feedback on. And then last, immediate action items. You know, I am worried about this branch here, and I would be curious for an arborist to provide some sort of feedback in terms of, you know, does this large live oak need bracing? You know, what would be the proper way to remove this branch? Is it necessary to remove this branch? Where on the limb should it be removed? One of the main reasons why I think this is so important is I believe this is the largest live oak out of all of them on the mound. And then a less critical, but you know, equally important note is that there's a strangler fig growing out of the live oak to the east, and, you know, it'll eventually not only kill the live oak but completely destroy the roadway. and will have to be removed. So we should get a removal plan for this strangler fig so that the live oak can continue to flourish there. So that is it. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Of course.
So the strangler fig, we did have our tree individuals come out and look at that. They're gonna bring out an arborist, and they're gonna look at that and see, and they're gonna have to figure out a plan how to. Oh yes, for the record, Madam Chair, we do have Member Webb, and we do have Adam O, who kind of acts as like a third consultant of ours. You know, we have consultants. They have joined us, so it's good to see them also. Got a full house today, Madam Chair.
Welcome, guys.
It's always good to see everybody. So we are looking into that. All right, so that's being looked into. As far as the oak and that large branch that comes out, if you notice when we did the some of the tree trimming, some of the other branches we cut those off that were kind of smaller. And we did that because we were trying to do, Mr. Brown, this is what we were trying to do. What myself and Manager Lou was trying to do, because that branch is so prominent and it's so beautiful, even though it does come out across, but it's just like across the road. And so it's such a prominent branch of that oak that we said, okay, I said, Madam Manager, this is what we're going to do. I said, let's try to like maybe cut off some of the smaller branches. And maybe because Mr. Brown can speak on this also, that oak is kind of starting to lean a little bit also. And so this leaning, I spoke to Mr. Brown, and we were kind of thinking that maybe that large branch also is kind of starting to pull that oak a little bit over also. And that's another problem. We don't want to pull the oak out of the ground. And so what we decided to do was cut off some of the other branches in the hopes that maybe that weight going away will kind of start to maybe, kind of have the oak straighten itself back up a little bit, because that branch is so prominent. But if we do have to cut that branch when the arborist comes out, we're going to have him look at that. We will. The problem also is that a lot of times when tree companies, when they do cut trees back, they like to cut it back from where the base of the branch starts. Mm-hmm. And that branch is so beautiful that I would like it, if it was going to be cut like halfway or something like that. But I don't know if they would even do that, because they always like to cut from the very start. That's another problem so this time when we did the trimming, I was like, let me try this first and see if that works, because if that would have worked, I would have hated to cut that whole branch off, and then we didn't have to. So that's the only reason why, that's what it is.
Totally understandable. Just a little bit of a side story. When I first moved here, I was talking with somebody about the mound, and they said, we need to remove this branch. And I said, that's the most beautiful branch. That thing, it slows traffic down. We can't lose that branch. It frames the picture. It makes the whole entrance to the mound. Now, since I've lived here, that branch has actually come down multiple feet because people have crashed into it. So I feel this obligation with the knowledge that I have to, like, if that tree were to get completely split in half and have to get removed, I would feel responsible that I hadn't shared this information with you. So I'm not an arborist, and there's different bracing strategies and different ways that that this can be approached. But like I said, I don't want somebody to hit the branch and then for the tree to completely crash over.
I'll do this, Mr. Brown. This is a promise that I'll keep to you. When the arborist comes out to look at that tree and give his opinion and give his options, I'll call you up and let you know what day he's coming, he or she is coming. And if you can meet us out there, you're welcome to join myself and Manager. All right. And you can hear like his options. And if you think, you'd be like, man, what you talking about, man? You can straighten them out for us, Mr. Brown.
Well, for the record, I would love to keep the branch if possible.
That's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to do, Mr. Brown. Absolutely. Madam Chair.
All right. Well, thanks, Colin. That was really helpful. I feel like I recall your mini presentation, but I feel like I just learned a lot more.
This is the localist of local government when we are talking about are
specific
concerned for a
branch.
branch. That's what I
Mhm.
love about this village.
No, that's awesome. And having your expertise, especially living right there, is really helpful. Hugh?
Thank you.
I just wanted to make 3 quick comments. It's really great to see that again, Colin. One thing I just want to back up again is on the lighting that you said. That's very important, and I think it needs to be considered in the whole park plan. Mayor Nickerson, you know, I mean, all over the village, we have these, I mean, I remember this goes way, way back. We have these, you know, massively bright sodium vapor lights beaming down on top of the
Yeah.
tree canopy. And it's supposed to, you know, it's light pollution, it's disruptive to things, and it's supposed to give people a sense of protection and security. But the fact of the matter is, you know, there's still all these spots where the trees create shade and darkness, you know, and, you know, I'm not an expert in this, you know more about it, Colin, but it's much more good for the environment, safe for security and everything else to have lower elevation lights that aim down at the ground. You know, don't blast everything with light and yet actually provide a lot more lighting for security for people walking and things like that. You know, and it'd be way too costly probably to try to redo lighting all over the village. But I think particularly these kind of park locations, you know, really need to get in some expertise and do that. It would be important. So that's one thing. The second thing is, it's great that there's going to be money for another drain in Sherwood Forest, but that also really, again, because there's going to be excavation there and everything, you know, we don't just need to get an archaeological permit. I think, I mean, I've been remiss because I have been working on some stuff trying to figure out where the water's coming from, where the old Kunti mill was, you know, so I think archaeological work needs to go along with that, you know, and it's really connected. I mean, I did the study during the big rain we had, you know, watching where water was going, and I just haven't had time to put it all together, but it seems much even clearer to me that, you know, there's this tremendous water collection thing over where Adam lives. I think Adam and I disagree a little bit on this or something, but I haven't really tried to make my case yet. But if you look at the flow, I mean, I think I figured out exactly where the old mill was and where that spring came out. And you can see like a direct siphon effect that goes from that, you know, from one side of Northeast 2nd Avenue to the other over there. So I think archaeology and some really careful work needs to be done over in that. And then the final thing is, you know, they are doing archaeological work across the river. I did get a chance to talk to the archaeologists there when they had that event, I think maybe a year ago. And I think it's a real opportunity in terms of education and stuff, to sort of collaborate with Pelican Harbor people on that. You know, they found out, you know, it is the classic pattern. There were about, I think, 700 population there for a very long span of time. They figured out their diet, everything, you know, so it was like a thriving community. And like following the Tequesta pattern, they have the ceremonial burial center on the other side. But to me, again, finding out about that archaeology is sort of a tremendous, there's some really important thing between the thriving community on one side of the river and the ceremonial side on the other that, you know, we need to explore and be part of our kind of historical things. So just a few things to add on top of your great thing, Colin.
Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Very quickly, I know we're getting down to the end. Thank you very much, Hugh, for what you said. Everything that we're going to be doing going forward, and myself and Manager Lou had a couple discussions about this with the archaeologists. Everything that we're doing going forward when it comes to Sherwood Forest, and I think we even spoke about this in the task force in past meetings, is going to be done not as quickly as it will be done in other areas of the village, because everything that we have to do in Sherwood Forest has to be approved by the archaeologists. It has to be approved. It needs like 2 or 3 different approvals. There's like a state approval, and there's like a county approval, and there's like an archaeologist approval. So it has to be approved for storm drains. When we get to the sewer, that's going to be, it's just going to move much slower in Sherwood Forest than it's going to move in all other places because of all the approvals that we have to get. Ever since, what was it? Almost last year, I think, that Manager Lou and I had the archaeologists come out and go through over a 3-day period, go through Sherwood Forest and go through the Sherwood Forest Park and go through the Indian Mound, the Native American Tequesta Indian Mound. It took them like 3 days, and once they finished that, once they finished their review, we got that back, and they were like, "Look, from now on, anything you guys have with development in Sherwood Forest has to go through." I mean, of course, I don't know off the top of my head, but there's like 3 different approvals now it has to go through because of the artifacts that they discovered throughout those 3 days when they were there. So, so Hugh, I understand exactly what you're saying, and that's put into play now, whether we like it or not. That's just now what it's going to be when it comes to that. Let me just say really quickly, Hugh, before you jump back in, as far as the lighting is concerned, take this right now, you guys know I don't really like to report stuff until it's like done. Right now, I'm probably like, I would say 27%, 28% through this situation, but I have funding that I've put out. And the reason why I say only 27, 28% is because the funding itself looks like I'm about, I would say probably like 89% there. So I think I'm going to get the funding in, but the funding has to be approved by FPL. But if FPL approves this funding that I'm getting in for lighting, I will be able to get, this is just, I usually save this stuff for later, but just this is with a grain of salt right now. I'm going to be able to get brand new lights and light poles with the lighting from FPL for $25 a pole.
No way.
Wow.
That's the grant. If I get the funding, and the grant looks like it's going to go through, but FPL has to approve the grant once we receive it, Manager Lou and myself. But I'll be able to get each pole for $25. That's part of the grant. Okay. We'll be able to do new light poles and things like that. So maybe we can cut those lights off. I don't know the process as far as like removing light poles, because now you're talking about removing, a concrete pole and things like that. I don't know how that goes, but maybe they could just turn those lights off and put like newer, lower light poles to replace those poles. Maybe we could do something like that. So just something to keep in mind. But like I said, that's not a given yet. I haven't gotten that process.
Can I jump in? The lights. I know that I love the idea of lighting on the burial mound as well, but lights, depending on what type of light you get, can have a really negative impact on wildlife and birds and bats. And I'm not an expert on this, but I know that there are people, and I know that Deanna Pierre with the Sierra Club runs like the Dark Initiative, and you can get lights that provide safety and all the good things that you want. But there's a specific wattage or a specific variation that is the most protective of wildlife. And then there's some that are really detrimental. So I would really like, when we redo the parks, especially, but if you're talking about the whole village, making sure that we're getting the type of light that is wildlife and bat friendly.
Do you know what's the name from the Sierra Club?
Yeah, her name is Deanna Umpiere. I can send you her contact information.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Madam Chair. I think Mr. Gladwin have something that he wanted to say before we close.
Of course.
Oh, no, I just want to add that in addition to the, regulation and the coordination with the archaeologists, at some point, maybe we should talk to Pelican Harbor and you know, I would like to see some kind of archaeological project going on here in addition to the enforcement, to like find out more, do some more excavation, find out more about what happened. I mean, you know, the mound, I mean, there hasn't been the kind of study, I think, over on this side that, you know, that they're doing over there, you know. Now that somebody would have to get a grant for that, but, you know, it's just in addition. But I think it's wonderful that we're now sort of having to be responsible for, you know, everything, the archaeological stuff. It certainly bothered me when I put in my septic drain field as an anthropologist, knowing that I was digging around there. So,
Colin, did you have something to?
Yeah, just with approval from the committee here and the mayor, I would like to further my thoughts on the mound and you know, what I did, what, you know, the documents that I presented, it's not a design, it's just the conditions that currently exist. By the way, Miss Carpenter, I love the Peperomia obtusifolia, the little baby rubber plant. That's one of my favorite natives sitting off to the side by you, that little plant. That thing's definitely going to go on the mound. It's shade tolerant. Look at the texture on it. That little plant, the one in the white vase. So sorry, sidetracked. I would love to just, rather than creating notes on a document, or, you know, any sort of red line or markup on existing construction documents, I would like to propose a design for the mound that I think would be appropriate, mayor and task force. And if you approve, I'll move forward with that and put together a design presentation. But if you think it's going to be a problem, mayor, or be detrimental to what you're working through at the moment, then I'll, you know, respectfully hold off.
I don't think that's a bad idea. Let's get together. Let's you and I have a meeting with Manager Lou, and let's look at the most current design that's there right now, and look at that one. You can tell us what is missing, and then at that particular meeting, what we'll do is we'll talk about you know, if it's missing, like if that design is totally wrong, we'll discuss you doing a design, you know, in lieu of that one. All right. Perfect. So let's just do that, because you might, the latest design we have, you might look at it and say, oh, you know, it's just missing these couple of little things that I would change. So let's do that first. I don't want you to have to go through the whole, you know, the whole process yourself of designing the entire thing yourself, when we might have a design to where we're halfway there to what you see, or we're 3/4 of the way there to what you want or desire. So let's do that. We'll reach out. I'll reach out to you offline. We'll get that meeting together.
Thank you so much, Mayor.
Thank you, my brother. Appreciate it.
All right.
Kristen, you got your hand up? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I have a hard stop. I'm actually already over when I have to jump. And but I know we have to talk about the schedule. And on the 19th of October, where we have something scheduled, is also the school board meeting. And I am scheduled to talk in front of the school board meeting about LGBTQIA issues in the school. So I would like to reschedule. I would like it if possible, if we can move that meeting so that I can go to the school board meeting.
For the sake of time,
or you guys can meet at a quorum without me, but I can't be here on the 19th. So,
Madam Chair, for sake of time, do you guys want to just, because I know we're past our time limit already, do you guys just want me to email these dates, and you guys can just respond in email?
I'm all for that.
You want me to figure it out in email so that you don't have to try to do it right now with everybody?
Sure.
All right. Any unfinished business or general orders that have to be addressed right now, or new business? All right. No good and welfare. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right. Can I get a
Hi,
second?
Matthew Webb.
I'm Matthew Webb. Second, I second it.
All right.
I
Favor of
second.
adjourning.
Sorry for my lateness. I
say
got my time zones wrong.
Thank you.